Welcome to Blunt Advice, the short-form show that delivers cannabis industry insight and information in quick hits to help you operate your Cannabiz on a higher level. Here are your blunt hosts, Francesca and Mike.
I recently read a report about some employment stats for the cannabis industry, and they remain troubling. The one I read was about 55% of turnover for bud tenders annually. And of that 55%, 25% of it is within the first month. Ooh. The sad part is this isn't the first time we've been reading this sort of numbers. I mean, it's been years and years of a lot of turnover, especially amongst bud tenders, but really around the industry. So it's nothing new, but I can't help but think that when this situation arises, that corporate culture couldn't be a big part of the solution to this turnover issue. So it kind of begs the question for me, which is there a home for corporate culture in cannabis? Or is the cannabis community shunning the notion of culture because it's too corporate?
Ooh.
So let that sink in, and let's have some blunt advice about, is there a home for corporate culture in cannabis? So what do you think, Francesca, when I say corporate culture to you, so we're all on the same page here, what is it that comes to your mind immediately when you think about a company that's got a strong corporate culture and what that does for that company?
When I'm thinking of corporate culture, I think, if I'm being honest, the very first thought that comes to mind is like the Google model from 2000 or whatever, when they just rolled ping pong tables out into the workspace and opened everything up. And, you know, that was called corporate culture. But I think we've evolved so far from that now.
Yeah.
And really what corporate culture means is a collection of ethics and values and beliefs that guide the behavior and the vision for the company. Mm-hmm. That's really what corporate culture is like these unwritten rules, really, that drive who you are as an identity.
So you have an employee handbook.
Right.
But that's not the culture.
No. However, it informs the culture.
To some degree.
To some degree.
Yeah. There's always those informal things that drive behavior that aren't in the pages of that book.
You know what's corporate culture in that? Having the handbook is having the handbook. How well the handbook is followed is the corporate culture.
What was the thing we did years ago? We didn't call it the handbook. We called
it the survival guide.
Yeah,
and was
that's
our
what
corporate
it was.
culture book.
Yeah, and we had the handbook, which was here's the legal parts of working here that everybody was super bored about. But then we had the survival guide, which outlined this is really what it's like to work here. This is like, don't walk in here bare feet because your feet smell, and don't do this and that. Like, we had those sorts of things, and some of them were pretty blunt. So
yeah, if you're going to bring food, share it with everyone.
Oh yeah,
things
different
like that.
episode.
Yeah, that is a different episode. But it's true, because it's the values and it's the beliefs and it's the ethics that drive the behavior that does or doesn't match up to what we say we are.
Right.
And so the corporate culture is actually who you are. And I think what that gives you is it acts as the catalyst for improved behavior internally, for better performance from your employees, because they're buying into the culture of the place.
Exactly.
I think it increases job satisfaction, which is going to lower turnover and even absenteeism. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, if I want to, I mean, there are days, obviously, that people don't want to go to work. But in general, if I look forward to the work and I find it predictable or satisfying or meaningful or social or fun or fulfilling, that's all coming from the corporate culture of the company.
Right. And that's why I think that it's such a big factor in those stats that I talked about earlier. 55% a year or 25% a month. I mean, that means a quarter of your staff is flipping every 30 days. So that's a real problem. And so I think, you touched on it. It's all those things. Plus, it helps keep people happy, productive, and there on a day-to-day basis. And let's not forget, it's what attracts customers too.
Yes.
As a consumer, when I go into a business that they have a culture that I vibe with, I'm down. and I'm going to be a loyal customer. There's going to be repeat sales. So it builds revenue at the same time, both from the internal perspective of people being more effective and more productive and more efficient and more effective, but at the same time, you've got more people coming in the door that are happy with what they're producing. So it can be a vicious circle down or a pipeline up. Ooh, is how I really see it.
That's nice.
That's the first time ever said. So,
TM.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right though, because corporate culture is, the vibes. It's really how you feel as a customer when you're walking in. That corporate culture should radiate, and it can radiate negatively or it can radiate positively for sure.
Yep. So this is what I started with. Do you think there is a fit for corporate culture in cannabis?
Absolutely. There has to be
Right.
more corporate culture in cannabis because frankly, I don't see any. I see families working together, but that's not necessarily corporate culture. I see a lot of people that have pieces of it, but and that's the good ones have pieces of it, but the fragmentation keeps them from actually having a clear corporate culture. I just don't see one.
I think there's a couple big constraints that keep businesses from establishing that culture.
Okay.
And I've seen it firsthand, even with ourselves when we first were starting out. And that's, people wear a lot of hats.
Oh my God.
And they have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things they have to do on a day-to-day. And so to establish a corporate culture does take effort and thought and strategy.
Consistency.
And consistency. So if you can't do it day in and day out, it's hard to get that momentum started. So I feel like that's a big, big part of that, and that just people have a lot of stuff going on. And
that's so true, because corporate culture can be established in a staff meeting, but if you're too busy to run staff meetings.
Right. I think the other part of it too goes back to the turnover. So even if you start having some culture, you have a couple of months that go straight, and all of a sudden you have, boom, 10 people gone, 5 people gone, as new people starting over. You're starting from scratch every second or third month, and so you can never get any momentum going with establishing it, even if you have a great idea for it. And so I imagine what would happen in that case is you're just like,
what's the
point?
Yeah.
And I'm banging my head against the wall. So. And there could be a lot of reasons. Those are just two that I know you and I have encountered. But here's the good news. As much as it's disappointing to know that a lot of companies don't have a culture established, there's two things that you can do today to start getting that momentum, to start building your own culture that will mirror what you want to believe for your company. Number one, it starts at the top. If you're the person at the top, if you're the leader, you don't have to be the owner. You have to be someone who's the leader of the company.
Nice distinction.
Yeah, because a lot of times the owners are if they're not involved in everything else. But if you're the leader, it's on you. And the best thing you can do for your company and for yourself and for your team and for your customers is to care. It's as simple as that. It doesn't cost you anything. It requires genuine, authentic caring about your people, about the workplace you provide, about the products you produce, and about the customers you serve. If you can care about those 4 things and it's tangible, that's the basis of having a corporate culture.
Yeah.
So, and also you have to be present.
Yeah.
If you're just going to mail it in and say, hey, we're going to have a staff meeting, but I'm not going to be here this week, or
Right.
I'll Zoom in because I'm at home chilling and whatever. Like that's never going to work. People are going
you can't opt out of corporate culture as the leader. That's not an option.
Yeah. So care and be present is the number one thing in my book.
Yeah. And I think the number 2 is that you have to create and then implement the vision, the values, and the rituals for your company. And so that means that you have to actually decide what those are. What is your vision? What does the future look like? And what does that mean for the people that work for you? Because that second part is going to be a huge piece of the corporate culture and how you get their buy-in. And then establishing and implementing the values. What do you value? Is it being on time or is it being flexible? So understand where you want your values put and then reinforce them through the behaviors, the rituals, which is things like if you value transparency and honesty, then you're going to probably have more meetings with people. So you have to make sure that you're consistently going through those meetings and sharing things as you go. If you value, I'm trying to think, something like on-time delivery, something along those lines, then that's going to drive a different kind of ritual. So
Right.
all of these work together, but you have to plan them and then you have to practice them.
I mean, some simple things that I know we do that we've had good luck with.
Yeah, because I'm blanking
Like
now.
one-on-ones with people.
That
Like
is
giving them
that
an
is a
avenue to
good
talk
one.
one-on-one at some frequency. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every week. But if they know they have a forum, that's a help. Staff meetings where you bring everybody together, make sure everybody's on board with what's happening with the company and where you're going and the success you're having together. That's a big one.
Wheel spins.
Yeah, you hit a goal, have a wheel spin. Take people out to get pizza, have a happy hour. I don't care what the hell you do.
Yeah.
Do it, be consistent, and be present.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
And
That
make
stuff
sure you
will all
care.
build on itself. And as long as it builds the right way, that's what counts.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
All right. So
That's
I think
a lot.
I think it's a lot. I don't know.
hope.
Well, I'll tell you what, if this impacts one company
Mm-hmm.
and they hear this and they start establishing some of these things and can see a tangible difference in literally 30 days,
Yeah.
that will make my day. So,
Let us know.
yep, please let us know. So let's roll this all up and take a couple quick hits of this blunt advice.
All right, so number one quick hit is there is a place for corporate culture in the cannabis world. There absolutely is. You guys can be the pioneers of it and show us those tangible results.
Number two, corporate culture is more than just your employees. It's everything in your company, from your products to your services, your values, your beliefs, and ultimately the people that are your end customers and paying your bills.
Yeah. And number three, corporate culture starts at the top. The top can't opt out. They have to care and they have to be present.
As always, we want to hear from you. So please email us your blunt feedback at bluntadvice@infusedmedia.io.
I'm Francesca.
And I'm Mike. And the time it took you to figure out who the new owner of Twitter is this week, you got some blunt advice.